What's going on, everybody? JT the Chef here, and today we have another version of the Midweek Roundup. Before we get started, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That way you get notified whenever we have one of these videos come out. Also, would love to hear your comments below. So today is November the 6th, 2024. Let's get started. So going into this past week, you can see that the market was actually riding, and we're looking at the NASDAQ futures here. You can see that the market was respecting and holding the 50-day moving average each one of these days. We had a very strong momentum move here on Tuesday, and then you can see that today and in the overnight and last night, you can see we had a very strong move to the upside. We pretty much closed at the highs. We'll look at that here in just a moment. But the market loved the fact that we had a decisive victory. I think that's actually why the market was so strong, is that we had a clear winner, that there was no controversy. And you can see that when we start to look at some other assets. We'll look at that here in just a moment. So let's take a little bit of a further deep dive into what actually happened today in the NASDAQ. So we're looking here at the 15-minute chart. And you can see polls closed right here around 7 o'clock. Okay, we got the opening ranges here. So here's our open right here. And you can see that the polls closed right here about 7 o'clock. And once the polls closed and we started to get an idea of what was going on, the market just started to run up pretty nicely. And then you started to see that the market was starting to respect fib levels off the open. And you can see we kind of respected here this 50.61.8. We hit the target here, continued our run higher. And what I'll say is that as we started to run higher here, it was pretty cool. Now, I did notice at the open today here at the New York session, I was paying attention to this. Europe opened right here. And we actually kind of traded down after the European Open. All right. So we traded down to these prior highs. Now, when the New York opened, and we'll kind of dive this down a little bit further here. You can see here when the New York opened right here, we had a nice strong push at the open. But then we had a little bit of a sell-off, right? Came back to the European Open, and for me, it was kind of seeing like, okay, is that European Open actually going to hold? So we ended up holding it. We got a retest of that European Open right here, and then we kind of just traded higher the rest of the day for a nice trend day. So overall, market traded higher. Actually, if we zoom out just a little bit here, you can see that we had previous highs to contend with that we had just a few days back. So these highs, and we'll mark these off right here. You can see that played a pivotal role intraday today. There was actually a short opportunity when we hit that earlier today, which is kind of strange. You'd think, oh my gosh, the market was higher today. Well, this is actually something that we were looking at today, and you can see how this played out. Market tested that prior high. We got a nice little bump above it, but then we just flushed us back down to the prior lows that we had. So that was something that I was watching today. It ended up playing out very well. I know some people in the room did catch that, so if you did, congratulations. But that was something that I was watching. But once we got through with that, market again held its strength, and now we're back with that strength moving higher. So if we go back to the daily chart, because I want to see how we're looking moving forward, you can see we are approaching all-time highs here in the NASDAQ. So with that being said, we do have a daily close above on the daily chart. That's the second day in a row. So that 2 days makes a trend. And this market is really kind of shaping up for a strong move to the upside. So I want to see how we deal with these prior highs. And if we have a similar reaction to what we had here from the highs that we had on the 30th. If we test these highs over here, which would put us right about at, let's mark that off, about 21,214.75 here. So that's 216, all right? So 21,216, right? So 21,216, the market tests those, but then we kind of fail to push above those. That might be an interesting opportunity back to the downside. But if we can actually hold that, we might start to see a nice little bull run into the rest of this month. But we'll see. We've got a lot of things going on. We'll talk about this here on the calendar in a minute, but we have the Fed this week. We've got a lot of other things going on, so we want to check that out. But that's it for the NASDAQ. Let's look at ES and see how that fared. So with ES, very similar scenario. We held that 50-day moving average. Nice little pop. All of the EMAs are currently on the bullish side. I will say that the 10-day is currently lagging. Nice strong day today. Let's look at that on the intraday basis here. And you can see again from the Globex open, from when the polls closed at 7 o'clock, we had a very strong move to the upside. Very similar structure on a Fibonacci level here. Held that 50 pretty much to the T. We started running up. And then actually, you can see here that we started holding extensions. And then if we drag this extension up, you can see that we bounced off that 50. We haven't quite hit the target yet, so this is the current draw. So I'd be watching to see price, if we get above the opening range here in Globex, hit that target in the overnight session of 577.75. Okay. Now looking at the daily chart, again, similar scenario, but not really, is it? No, because ES has actually been much stronger in comparison to the NASDAQ. So you can see we are making all-time highs, and we are at all-time highs. So ES at 6,000 could be very soon. We'll see. See how we react to that target right there at 5,977.75. All right. Now let's take a look at gold. Now, what I was saying earlier was interesting, right? We saw a flight to safety go away today. All right. And we'll show it in two separate charts. Okay. The first chart I'm going to show you is gold. So gold on the daily chart has had a very strong move to the upside, right? But we started to see a little bit of weakness towards the end of the month. And then once the election results started to come out, we started to see weakness in gold. And gold had one of its most bearish days this year. So kind of crazy that actually happened. But why did that happen? That's because the market, people were basically trying to defend themselves for a inevitable, if there was some sort of conflict in relation to the election. Well, there was no conflict. And once the market got a sniff of that, gold just started selling off. So here's the open right here, Globex. And you can see that once the results really started to solidify, we just traded down all day. This is probably when the AP officially called the results. I believe it was a little bit after the European Open. And you can see that gold just traded lower. So with that, gold traded lower, flight to safety no longer. So that's what happened with gold. And you'll see, and actually we'll show you bonds here in just a moment to kind of look at that. Again, on the daily chart, looking a little bit bearish. We had this new high that was made. We are right at that 50-day moving average. So if the 50 does break, we have not broken the 50 in quite some time here. So if you do break the 50, then I think it is possible we could retest this 200. That's something we haven't done since February of this past year. So we'll see if that actually happens. It would be nice to get a nice little pullback in gold. It is something that I personally like for myself, but we'll see how that works out. All right, let's actually take a look at the 10-year because I do want to show you how that actually moved. And you can see that the 10-year rates, and this is funny going into the Fed announcements tomorrow, but everybody was expecting the Fed, once Fed started cutting rates, that rates would start going lower. And actually, since the Fed has cut rates, rates have done nothing but gone higher. Okay. And there is absolutely a bear market going on right now with the bond market, which is absolutely insane. So rates are absolutely going crazy to the upside because when bonds are not being bought and there's no longer a flight to safety in bonds, if nobody wants to buy them per se, then the rates are going to go higher. And this can cause, the Fed to take a pause, possibly cause mortgage rates to be higher, and it could affect the economy in a way that I don't think people are actually really recognizing. So today we saw that. And that was in a relation to, again, that flight to safety being no longer also into possibly some of the economic policies that Trump may put into place. We'll see how that works out, but this is something that you guys need to be paying attention to. All right. Last thing I want to look at is oil. You can see here we have had this chart on oil up for a little bit now. We broke out of this wedge. We are still holding this wedge. The breakout up above this here. So we're going to take this trend line. And the other thing I want to point out is we pretty much held that 50 to a T there. So now I'll be looking at targets up to 74.11 here in the CL trade. All right. That's that. Last thing I actually do want to look at is I will look at Bitcoin, because this is very interesting. This is Bitcoin, and Bitcoin did hit all-time highs. So Bitcoin has had a very nice move to the upside. The Republican Party and Donald Trump has been very much on board with the fact of supporting crypto and the future of crypto. So with that, we saw a very huge day in crypto yesterday. I would not be surprised if we get a little bit of a retracement into yesterday's move. Also, the Fed's going to play a pivotal role in how this will move into tomorrow. So next thing we want to do is we want to look at what earnings are possibly going into tomorrow. So let's look at that. All right, so now we're looking at what we have going into earnings tomorrow. So tomorrow we've got Datadog before the open, Moderna, Under Armour. We have Hershey, Barrick Gold. We have Yeti, Duke Energy. Just to name a few, those are some of the nice ones. After hours, we do have Airbnb. We've got Rivian. We've got Splock, aka Square. We've also got TTD. We've got the Trade Desk, of course. DraftKings, Cloudflare, Net. We got Lucid. We got Upstart. We got Pinterest. We got Affirm. We got Monster. We've got Dropbox, Redfin. A lot of big names here that people like to trade. So make sure you guys are aware of this. Open Door, also another one paying attention to. So make sure you guys are paying attention to that. Keep up to date with these earnings plays as they come out. These are one of my favorite websites to go to, just earningshubs.com. You can find this information for free. All right, so now let's take a look at what we've got left on the economic calendar for the week. So today we did have crude oil inventories that did come out, and we also had a bond auction as well. Crude oil inventories came in under what was expected here. Let's click on this real quick. Oops, not that. You can see they came in at 2.1 and the forecast was 0.3. So a build. So kind of a surprise there. But let's see what we have going into tomorrow. So we've got a bond auction on the yen coming up here later on this evening at 10:35. And then tomorrow we have got the Bank of England making their policy statement, making their policy decision. We've got unemployment claims at 8:30. We've also got some wholesale inventories at 10 o'clock, natural gas at 10:30, and the all-important Fed funds rate at 2 o'clock with Fed Chair Jerome Powell at 2:30. So that is what I'm going to be expecting, a wild market. And a little curveball at 3 o'clock, we have consumer credit, which is something I've been trying to pay attention to with high rates. How is the consumer faring with their credit? And the last thing I want to do is look into tomorrow. But Friday. Let's look at Friday. And we've got consumer sentiment at 10 o'clock on Friday. And we got a couple Fed speakers in the afternoon. So just be mindful of that. All right, guys, make sure that you don't lose sight of those things. Last but not least, I just want to tell you guys we are running a promo right now for the first month of your membership at StockDads is 100% free with the code MAGA. So with the link in our description here, you'll be able to be a part of StockDads and learn from us every single day. Just click the link in the description, use that code, and join us every single day. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening, and we will see y'all tomorrow.